As President Trump prepares to address graduating cadets, illegal immigration remains front and center of his agenda. The White House this week slamming District Judge Brian Murphy after he blocked the deportation of a group of illegal immigrants to South Sudan, saying that the judge is, quote, not the Secretary of State. Republican South Carolina Congresswoman Nancy Mace on what she makes of the latest moves. But first, Congresswoman, thank you so much for being here this Memorial Day weekend. I want to just piggyback off of what we're seeing at West Point today. You obviously represent a strong military community in South Carolina. What do you hope to hear from the Commander-in-Chief and just the significance of his speech today?
Well, and I also have several members of my family who are graduates of West Point, so I share a lot of their pride today watching the President of the United States, Donald Trump, take on America with some of our most selfless servants who are going to go to war, who are going to protect our country and our freedom. And I hope and I believe we will hear what Donald Trump is best at, giving the American people hope, inspiring our future soldiers who are going to be defending our freedom, our liberty, our Constitution, our country from our adversaries around the world. And I think we're going to feel great pride in his speech today.
Congresswoman, I want to talk about the big, beautiful bill before we talk about immigration. The one big, beautiful bill includes a big increase in defense spending for this nation. I want to now, obviously now it's in the hands of the Senate. I want to toss to a bite here from Senator Ron Johnson about the prospect of this House bill in the Senate, and then I'll get your reaction.
All you heard in the House was $1.5 trillion. Sounds like a lot, but it's eager in compared to the $89 trillion we're going to be spending over the next 10 years and the $22 trillion we're going to add to the debt. Their bill, I believe, actually adds to that $22 trillion. Again, that's averaging $2.2 trillion a year deficit. That's completely unacceptable. That's why I'm saying it's inadequate. We need presidential leadership to get on board with returning to a reasonable pre-pandemic level spending.
Congresswoman, $22 trillion in debt is what the Senator Johnson said this bill will contribute over the next 10 years, yet you voted for it. What do you have to say about Senator Johnson's comments?
Well, number one, I share Senator Johnson's concerns about spending in this country, but also President Trump received a mandate in November. This is what the people want. This is what they desire, and they want us to move forward. And what the bill does is make Donald Trump's tax cuts permanent. That's huge for the middle class. It also provides funding and resources for our border so we can continue to stem the tide of the record illegal immigration that was done under Joe Biden. And I believe with the provisions in the bill that our economy is going to grow bigger and better than ever before, which would absorb some of the concerns that Senator Johnson has. But now is not the time to stall. We have to move our country forward. This is the best way to do that. But also, this doesn't have to be the only reconciliation bill. Democrats under Joe Biden set the precedent that you can do more than one. You can do multiple reconciliation bills, and we can address some of those concerns in future reconciliation bills if leadership decides that's what's right to do. But we have got to move Donald Trump's agenda forward. And if you're going to stand in the way, you're standing in the way of the American people at this juncture.
Congresswoman, do you expect your Republican colleagues in the Senate to blow up this bill, or do you think they'll just make minor tweaks at this point?
I think it'll be somewhere in between. I don't think they entirely blow it up, and I think the tweaks will be more than minor. What we often see is the Senate tinker with the bill in major ways. I probably won't be happy with it, and we'll see what it looks like when it comes back to the House. But everything is a negotiation. Not everyone gets 100%. You saw SALT Republicans not get everything they wanted, but they got a little bit. You saw the Freedom Caucus get some of what they wanted, but they didn't get 100% of it. And so that's what negotiation looks like, and that's what compromise has to be when you have different groups within our party fighting for what's right for their constituents and their country. We have to come to an agreement together.
So when do we get our hands around the deficit? I mean, when does that conversation happen, if not now?
Well, I think you're seeing it in some of the work that DOJ is doing, and I wish we were doing more to codify the DOJ cuts when we're cutting that kind of spending, and there's more to do. And I'm looking at all of the DOD contracts. I'm glad that we're increasing defense spending, but we also need to address all of these multi-billion-dollar contracts where some of our private contractors are literally, they have hundreds of people on contracts that aren't doing any work. Those contracts need to be cut, and we need to start over and be much more efficient with our dollars. But in cutting the spending and what DOGE is doing, that is step one in addressing the problem. But also the other thing we have to do is grow the economy. And I believe the provisions that Donald Trump is championing will help grow our GDP in ways that can absorb some of the debt and deficit that's on the horizon.
Congresswoman, before I let you go, I want to talk about illegal immigration. You have the judge, Brian Murphy, who has blocked the Trump administration's deportation of 8 illegal immigrants, not just 8 illegal immigrants, those who have been convicted of murder, pedophilia, sexual abuse, essentially saying that these folks deserve due process. Now, this plane of 8 illegal immigrants landed in Djibouti, and they are now there until this is adjudicated. What do you make of this judge's decision, and what do you have to say to those who say that even the worst of the worst deserve due process?
Well, they didn't get due process. They didn't want due process on their way in illegally. They shouldn't get due process on their way out. They need to be deported immediately, particularly the murderers, the pedophiles, the child molesters, the rapists. They got to go first, and that's what Donald Trump is doing. But guess what? Judge Brian Murphy, he's not Secretary of State. He's not the President of the United States. He's not God. He does not get to override Donald Trump and his agenda to keep America safe. And so I hope that Donald Trump will keep deporting those murderers and rapists and do it as quick as he can, because we need to keep women and kids safe in our country. And these illegals who are here, and what I understand is some of these countries just open up their prisons and let these violent criminals come walk right into the United States of America. It's wrong, and we have the right to stand up for ourselves, our freedoms, our liberty, and our national security. At this point, it's a national security problem.
For those just tuning in, we are waiting for President Trump to speak at the West Point Academy in front of 1,000 cadets who are about to be commissioned as second lieutenants, officers in the U.S. Army. Congresswoman, you were just talking about immigration, but there was also a bill that you introduced regarding the Democratic Congresswoman from New Jersey, LaMonica McIver. You are calling for her to be expelled from Congress. Now, the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, has said that that is not likely to happen. You haven't forced the issue. You've recommended it at this point. Why should the Congresswoman, who is now being charged by the Justice Department for assaulting federal agents at that ICE detention center, why should she be expelled for that before even this is adjudicated in the courts?
Well, Democrats set the precedent under George Santos that we can expel members of Congress without any due process, without a conviction, any of that. And so they set that precedent. Also, Democrats for the last decade have said no one is above the law. Well, good. Let's start with Congresswoman McIver, who physically assaulted an ICE agent and other federal agents. We all saw the video. Let's see what we can do there, because I'm glad she's being charged. She should be charged and prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Democrats say one thing and then do another. It's complete hypocrisy. And as they, want to keep violent criminals and want to let out MS-13 onto the streets of the United States of America, I hope we give them a bigger microphone. Let's give them a megaphone. So the American people can see what they're truly about, and it's not the American people. They will not put our citizens first. And
quickly, Congresswoman, do you expect her to be at least censured, maybe some of her committee assignments stripped? I know that that's been brought up, at the very least, that to happen?
Democrats have also set the precedent for censorship and also kicking off a member off of their committees for nothing at all, just for a few words. And this woman has been indicted and has been charged for this assault on a federal agent. So there are other measures, and we should use every tool in the toolbox to hold her accountable.
Congresswoman Nancy Mace from the great state of South Carolina, thank you so much for being here on this Memorial Day weekend. And
thank you.
To your family for their service to this country. Appreciate it.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.